Life is not a door. I just left one room and came into another. That's not the way it works. Life is a path, right? That room is a bit darker, this room is light, it's completely different. But that's not the way change happens in our lives. We don't just simply open up a door and go, wow, this is great, and walk in, and we are a completely different person. We are a new creation in Christ, that's true. But have you ever noticed that some of the old problems that you were dealing with back a few years ago are still with you today? Why is that if you're a new person? Because life isn't a doorway that you walk through. Life is a path that you follow. I appreciate Judy sharing those words earlier on. They were great instructions for us to have. And I'm going to focus on that right now. But as I focus on it, I want you to think about a couple of things. And that is this. Learning, applying, and growing. Learning, applying, and growing. That's how it works. But there's another component here. And I want to share these words again with you. And it comes from Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 22. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Keep that in mind. So let's take a look at Paul's instructions, if you don't mind. First, he says, speak truthfully. Why is it important to speak truthfully? Let me give you an illustration, if you don't mind. And he uses the illustration of the body, right? We all know that there are various diseases where our body doesn't communicate effectively. Isn't that true? And because of that, it causes all sorts of physical problems for us. Let me give you an example. For people who struggle with the ability to feel effectively, that causes problems. So let's say your hand and the nerves in your hand aren't communicating effectively with your brain. And you put your hand over a hot stove and it says everything is cool, when in reality it's hot. And if you touch it with your hand, you're going to get burned. Your hand is not communicating with your brain. Therefore, it's causing problems. Speak truthfully. That's why he says we've got to speak truthfully with each other. In the church, in the body. The body is the body of Jesus. We are part of the body. We have to speak truthfully to each other. And if it doesn't, it can cause serious problems. How do you grow trust? Does trust happen automatically? Do you walk up to somebody and go, I trust you? I don't think so. You learn to trust that person, right? And the way you learn to trust that person, because they speak truthfully to you, and you go, they're speaking honestly and truthfully. Therefore, I can trust that person. And then Paul adds this in Philippians chapter 4 and verse 15. Speaking the truth in love. Now listen to the rest of these words. We will grow to become in every respect a mature body of Him who is the head, that is Christ. So we speak the truth to one another and we do so in love. We're motivated by love. Then Paul adds this. He says, have a healthy anger. That's a difficult one at times. I appreciate that. There will be anger. That's a reality. We are going to get angry. If we don't get angry, we're just holding it in. We're getting angry, but we're holding it in. And that's hurtful for us and for others as well, too. There is a healthy anger to have. We can have the right kind of anger. For example, if you look back in history, William Wilberforce, his anger against the slave trade drove him to work tirelessly against it to the point where eventually it was abolished. That's a proper, healthy anger. Jesus got angry, and he had a terrible and splendid anger. Because when he was angry at injustice, and he showed his anger in a terrible and a splendid way. However, if we have an unhealthy anger, and I know nobody's ever done this, but have you ever got angry sometimes? You're sitting at a table, and you're getting angry about what's going on, and you slam your fist down. let me ask a quick question. Did it help the overall situation? How is your hand feeling after you banged it down with authority? Are you feeling good? Here's another example. Give me some leeway in this one here. I thought of this the other day and I said, oh, I'm going to share. Let's say now your parts of the body are getting angry with each other. So let's say your foot gets angry at your butt. Will it do any good for you to kick your own butt? Now maybe sometimes other people are looking at you and go, I think it would do you some good. But in reality, it doesn't help when we hurt ourselves. Self-hate doesn't help. It's not a healthy hate. It's not a healthy anger at all. And here's another thought too, and I know this from years of experience of working with people. When somebody is dealing with alcohol or they have an addiction to something, and they go back, they have a relapse. You don't have to beat them up because they're already beating themselves up. But you see, that's not a healthy anger because a lot of times it leads towards a very unhealthy action and they just take it to the nth degree. I might as well give up. I'm no good. I might as well just keep going. That's not a healthy anger. And Paul is saying we have to have a healthy anger. But that's a tall order, isn't it? And then Paul adds this. He says, don't hold on to anger. Don't hold on to it. You see, the longer we hold on to anger, the harder it is to let it go. Because it just becomes ingrained in us. It becomes a part of us. And the longer we hold on to anger against somebody else, the harder it is to forgive that person. Because we have this in our minds now and our thoughts that it's taking over. There are certain rules. There was a Greek philosopher by the name of Pythagoras, and he had a following of people, and he had certain rules that they set up, and if they wanted to be his follower, they had to follow these rules. And one of the rules that he had was this, that at the end of the day, it didn't matter what happened, at the end of the day, all the members of his order would shake hands in genuine reconciliation and then kiss each other. Now, I'm all for the shaking of the hands, okay? In genuine reconciliation, but if you don't mind, I'm going to hold it at that. That's a hard thing to practice. And even when we practice it, sometimes we don't change immediately, and our attitudes are still there. But it's something that we can learn. I remember when I started working in Quebec many years ago, and I had a number of staff working with me. I remember this one day in particular. 2 staff members were just going at each other. And they were passing insults back and forth, and they were getting angry, and they were raising their voice. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do? And I was a lot younger than them, and I thought, I'm going to have to intervene. They're going to come to blows if I don't do something. Suddenly, one of them looked at his watch and said, lunchtime, let's go. And off they went, and I'm standing there, I'm confused, like, what just happened here? And then I realized, that's their culture. And then I thought, as an English person, I could learn a lot. I was taught a lesson when we came over, we arrived in France. And I was told this lesson, you have to do this. He said, when you're driving in the city, you are going to cut people off, and that's a reality. You're going to cut people off. This is what you do. Think about it, listen. You cut somebody off, it's your fault. You shake your fist at them. Like this, you shake your fist at them. And then they will shake their fist at you. And then you move on. You've allowed expression, and then you let it go. Now that's an easy lesson to hear, but it's not an easy one to put into practice. It's not our mindset, our cultural mindset. But it's something important to remember about dealing with anger. We need to find a way, we need to learn how to let it go, to release it. And Paul is saying this, he said, don't give the devil an opportunity in your life. Don't give the devil an opportunity. Then he adds this, and I'm going through them rather quickly, deliberately. He adds, don't give the slanderer a place in your life and in your church. I read this statement the other day. I really like it. Listen carefully. Reputations have been massacred over teacups every day. Do you hear it? Don't give the slanderer a place in the church. All very good instructions. Instructions on how do we get along, how do we coexist, how do we build the body of Jesus, the body of Christ, the church that we are part of. And then he adds this too, and I left this one for last deliberately because it feeds into my next point. He says, live honestly, even in the small matters of life. I'd like to share a true story with you to illustrate this point. This is a man who is sharing his story with other people. He is in prison. He is incarcerated. If you were to look at him, you would look and wonder, why is he in prison? But he shares his story. This is what he says. Years ago, when I was a young boy, my father had a family heirloom, a watch. It was very, very precious to him. And he had told us on numerous occasions, he said, please don't touch my watch. It's very fragile. He said, well, one day curiosity got the better of me. So I went into my father's room and I opened up the drawer and I took out his watch and I was looking it all over and I was playing with it. And he said, then I dropped it. He said, it broke. He said, I scooped up all of the pieces carefully and I put them back in the drawer. And I didn't say a word. That evening, my father pulled us all together and he said, who broke my watch? I didn't say a word. And he said, I never, ever told anybody in the family what I did. But he said, that was the start of a behavior of concealing things that I had done over and over and over again. Just little things, but he said it was a start. And he said, one day, not long ago, I was driving home from work, and I struck a pedestrian, and I left the scene. He said, in my heart, I said, I have to conceal it. And he said, they came and they arrested me, and I didn't admit that I was guilty, but they found me guilty by the evidence. And he said, here I sit today, the result of the little choices that I made through my life. All these little choices. They keep building and building and building. In Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 14 it says this. It said, do not set foot. You hear this? Do not set foot on the path of the wicked or walk in the way of evildoers. Avoid it. Right at the onset, when you see yourself making a little mistake here, or making a little mistake there, or making a judgment call there, stop. Don't set foot on the path of the wicked. Avoid it. Do not travel on it. Go your own way. And then he adds this too. He said, for they cannot rest until they do evil. You see, it draws us. The further we get down into the path, it draws us. They are robbed of sleep until they make somebody stumble. It obsesses. People obsess. What happened? They eat the bread of wickedness and they drink the wine of violence. See, it starts by small steps, small decisions, step by step. That's how life works. And then Isaiah said these words. He said in 30 chapter 21, he said, this is the way. This is the way, walking step by step, step by step, left, right, following God, following Jesus, learning from the Bible, applying it, and then growing. Applying it, learning it, applying it, growing. There's an organization called Celebrate Recovery. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it, Celebrate Recovery. It's a very good organization because it's based upon these biblical principles of learning, applying, and growing. And they do it in a group setting to help and encourage one another. They ask these questions here. Now, I know it's going to take a few moments, but I thought, here's some questions they ask. Listen to the questions. Do you believe in God and yet you seem to struggle with that? Do you want to trust God with all your life, yet you have fear? Is serenity only an ideal that you never feel that you will be able to experience? Does life at times feel overwhelming? Do you have any resentments, anger, or fear? Do you have persistent feelings of low self-worth, shame, guilt? Have you ever tried to change your behaviors without success? If I was to give that out to you and you were to quietly fill that out, how many boxes would you check off? I think I'm pretty good on hitting almost all of them. We struggle. It's a reality. Learning, applying, and growing. But you see, that's not enough, too. That's why I skipped over the first part really quickly. There's a lot to learn, but I skipped it over because we're going to come to the second part now. Learning, applying, and growing, but it's not enough. You see, we all know how difficult it is to change. If you're in your 60s, your mid-60s, and you have to change a tire, is that as easy as it used to be when you're in your 20s? It doesn't seem to get any easier to grow either, does it? To change. Well, let me tell you this. The Bible assures us of this reality. You are ready for it? The Bible tells us that we cannot change ourselves with willpower alone. We can't. St. Augustine was discussing with this same Greek philosopher I was mentioning, Pythagoras. Pythagoras said, people can change. It's by doing the little things that transform the bigger attitudes. And Augustine said to him, no, it's impossible. It's impossible to change ourselves. He said the key to life changes is not acts of the will, but loves of the heart. And that's not just acts of the will. It's not, I want to do this, I want to do it so bad, I'm going to make... No, he said it's loves of the heart. It's not enough just to know wisdom. We have to love wisdom. Love wisdom. There's the key right there. Love wisdom. Verse 4 again. Take hold of my words with all your heart. Keep my commands and you will live. Get wisdom. Get understanding. There's a lot of key phrases there, and there's the key phrases that call us to action. We have to really act on this. We have to be diligent. We have to be determined. We have to make an effort, and that's important. That's important. Years ago when I was living in British Columbia, I used to like hiking, and so we were living in British Columbia, and I decided I was going to hike the mountain trails. This is going to be great. I got my hiking boots on. I drove up to the trails. I was on the trail for a good 20 minutes. I came back feeling defeated and miserable and bruised. Those trails are wicked bad, I tell you. I wasn't ready for this. If you're walking trails in the White Shell and you go to the mountains, you better be ready for disappointment. So what did I do? I said I'm going to give up. I'm not going to do this ever again. No, I'm not that smart. Instead, I started training. Right outside of our house, there was a hill, right? This was one of the steepest hills I'd ever seen. I started walking up and down that hill. I walked down fine. The first few times coming back up, I thought I was going to die. But I kept doing it again and again and again, day after day after day, and I was adding distance to it. I was able to walk up this hill a lot better. There were some hills that were so steep on the sidewalk, they had ridges, because if on a rainy day you were trying to walk up it, you would slide back down. That was how steep it was. And then I hit the trails after that, and I had a really good time. And then Judy's brother came out and said, I want to hit the trails too. And I'm going, oh, okay, you better be ready for disappointment. We get on the trails, and after a while, he's looking at me going, can we get off this trail? You got to really make an effort. That's true. But it's not enough, though. It's not enough. You see, in the Proverbs, he says, with all your heart. What does this mean? With all your heart. First, understand that our concept of heart and body are quite different than the concept the author had. See, our concept is based upon the Greek idea. And the Greeks saw people as dualistic. They saw people as divided. We are warring within ourselves. There's the heart, which is they considered to be the feelings, and then the mind, which was the rationale, the logic, and always fighting against each other, and always fighting to see who was going to win. But the author, he didn't have a view of people like that. He says your heart, he means you, all of you, every aspect of you, your feelings, your rational, your logic, everything has to be working together. And he's saying, guard your heart with all diligence, because out of it flows springs of life. Flows springs of life. It's always flowing. It's not like a stagnant pool. It's like a gushing spring, and something's always come out. And what comes out depends upon what the heart feels is valuable and important, and what it chooses to focus on. What is in our heart, in our minds, our passions, will come out. Everything in life comes from within. The heart for us then is not just one portion, it's everything. What I hold dear directs my paths. What my heart sees as important, what I see as important, controls my attitude and my actions. I've been reading this book. It's written for Reggie Leach. Anybody know Reggie Leach? The Riverton Rifle? Okay? So I've been reading his book. I'm going to tell you, if you like hearing all about how I scored goals, read his book. Because the whole middle section is about how we scored goals. Really great reading, if you like that stuff. But I found what is really interesting is the beginning and the end. Because you see, in the beginning, he's talking about all the hardships that he went through. And because of his love of hockey, it kept him on the straight and narrow, you might say. He was focused and determined. He loved hockey, and he said, this is it. This is going to be my life, my career, and he achieved that goal. Then while he was playing hockey, he said after a while, he started going out with the boys after the games, and they were all drinking, and he said, I became an alcoholic. So he went into treatment. And then when he came out of treatment, they were saying, well, come on back. And he went, I can't. I want to live. And I love my kids, and I love life. And I can't go back. You hear that? The greatest passion that he had kept him straight at first, and then he changed it because he knew what was in his heart, what was most important to him would be the driving force. And so now he lives his life helping other people. He is a motivational speaker. He said, and he says on his website, give me a call. I'll talk with you. I'm available. Can I help? He also lives in Manitoulin Island, which is one of my favorite places in Canada. Has anybody ever been there? Okay, it's beautiful. Anyways, enough of that. He hit a point though. You see, he's driven by what is most important to him. And that's what the Bible tells us. What is most important to us will drive us. And the Bible says the beginning of wisdom is this. Get wisdom. Though it cost all you have, get understanding. Love wisdom. Love wisdom. Love wisdom. Who is wisdom? Let's put a name to it again. Do you mind? We'll put a name to it again. Go back to Proverbs chapter 30, verse 4. Remember this? I'm going to read it anyways, the whole thing, because I really like this passage. So bear with me. Who has gone up to heaven and come down? Are you using your imagination? Doesn't have to be hard. Whose hands have gathered up the wind? Who has wrapped up the waters in a cloak? Who has established the ends of the earth? What is his name? And what is the name of his son? Surely you know.
Jesus.
What is it?
Jesus.
Thank you, Ron. Jesus. Jesus. Wisdom is Jesus. Therefore, when you say love wisdom, we're saying love Jesus. Get hold of wisdom, get hold of Jesus. Jesus is talking with his disciples. Chapter 14 of John. And he's giving them comfort. And he says to them, don't let your hearts be troubled. And then he adds this, you know the way. You know the way. And Thomas comes along and he says, I'm confused. I don't know the way. And what he's saying, he's admitting, he said, I really don't know you. I don't know where you came from. I don't know where you're going. I don't know you. He's being honest to him. And Jesus answers him, and he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus doesn't say, hey, I know the way. He doesn't say, hey, I can point the way to you. He doesn't say, look, if you follow my example, the way I've been living, you can follow the way too. Jesus says what? He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus is the wisdom of God. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 24, Paul says, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God. In Proverbs 8 and 22, our wisdom was with the Lord when he began his work, long before he made everything. And then if you look at John chapter 1, what does it say? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. And everything was made through the Word. And what is the Word? It's the wisdom. It's Jesus. So let me rephrase this passage in Proverbs, verses 8 and 9. The beginning of wisdom is this. Get Jesus. Get Jesus. Though he will cost all you have, get Jesus. Cherish Jesus and he will exalt you. Embrace Jesus and he will honor you. He will give you a garland to grace your head and present you with a glorious crown. Does that remind you of some of the things that we read in the New Testament? In 2 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 8, Paul's talking about receiving a crown of righteousness. You see that connection between the old and the new? When Jesus is first and foremost in our life, when we start taking his teaching seriously, when we start to apply it again and again and again, and again, I talk about the importance and the value of applying it with each other, learning with other people as well too. We will start to change. But it will take time. But we will start to change. But we keep on that path, keeping first and foremost in our heart the love that we have for Jesus. Verse 18 says, the path of the righteous is like the morning sun. Was anybody up to watch the sunrise this morning? No, okay. Fair enough. I was up simply because my dog got up really early this morning. And I'm sitting at the table. Now, in the southern hemisphere, you'll notice that it goes like this. It's light and then it's dark. And then it's dark and then it's light. We have this blessed experience where we're cold. But we have this experience. And for those who haven't experienced this, let me explain it to you. So the light gradually comes up, and then you get a glimmer of it, right? And then it comes a bit more, and then it gets brighter, and it gets brighter, and it gets brighter, and it gets brighter, until it shines all its glory. In verse 18 it says, the path of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter, till the light of the full day. Get it? Get it? It takes time, but it keeps going brighter and brighter. So that's an encouragement for us all this morning. We might not feel that we're there, but you know what? That light is shining a bit brighter each time. Each time. Step by step. Step by step. Left, right. Left, right. Remember this. Jesus not only tells us the way. He is the way. The truth, the wisdom, and the life. Amen?